What are we going up on? Getting up on?
We are now going to talk about your brother.
Okay.
So, what was the age difference? How old were you when he was born?
I'm not sure, but it's somewhere between 5 and 7. He wasn't born immediately after me. Everybody was too smart to have that happen. No, but
So you were more than a toddler when he was
exactly.
when he was born.
Oh, I was a big
So
sister.
You had a life and a routine going pretty good when he showed up.
I had parents all to myself, and then suddenly I didn't. No, it wasn't all that bad, but yeah. So yeah, it's hard for me. Sometimes I think I was only 5 years older than him, and sometimes I think it was 7. But
Do you know currently how much older you are than him?
I hardly even remember that I have a brother. He's so far away. And sometimes I know he thought he was older than me in our adult life.
So, tell me a little bit about a farm family, running a farm, and a nuclear family with your dad and mom and you and your brother, and what the difference having a boy in the house made.
Well, there's his charm factor. I mean, I think the big difference was that we all had a new toy, and I think that we each of us personally perceived that, boy, this is the way everything is for people. They have a daughter, or they have one child, and then they have another one, and he's just like a little plaything, a toy. And that can't go on forever, but it went on for quite a while, and part of it was, and I can't remember whether I've already said this to you, but after he became a toddler, and he would go get out of sight, and then he would come back to Mom and say, "I'm in trouble." He called it trouble, and it would be that his kite went up in the air, or that one of his toys got jammed somewhere. It would be outdoors, basically, would be when it would happen. And my mother actually always loved to talk about it, because I'm sure she loved him at that age. That it was cute, and so she would tell it, and he would say, "I'm in trouble," and she would always say, "And he always was," shaking her head. And it's so again, it was this little person as a toy for us, as a source of pleasure, joy, delight. Use whatever word you want to, but yeah, that kind of our little pot of gold we had, or struck it rich, or some great big thing had happened to us. And of course, I never knew, obviously, as a child, that my parents were trying to have another baby. That I didn't know that. But boy, I sure shared all the excitement and the joy of it. And somehow, my parents never. There was never a time that when I felt I lacked attention, or they didn't care about what was going on with me, or It was like, wow, look at us. There's more of us than there used to be, Wow. Which is the way it should be, shouldn't it? that the new child gets seen as that. Wow, you know, what an addition to our family. And the adults all think, wow, look what just happened to us, you know. Gosh, I think you can't ask for better than that in a family, I don't think.
What roles did he start to take on the farm?
Did he?
Yeah. And how did that impact farm life?
Wow. Why is this not? I can remember clearly every second that I spent in that barn. I can remember clearly every second that I spent with my grandfather. I think the gap is too great between the two of us for me to have seen him become like what I used to be or something. I don't even know how to say it. I can't. Wow, that's really. Wow, that's a huge gap. That's a huge. And I mean, I couldn't have been gone to college already. I mean, I couldn't have been away from home. I don't think.
So when you were in high school,
yeah,
and he was in middle school, and you were going to the same school.
Yes.
And separated by 5 grades or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What was? Did you see each other when you were at school? I mean, did you change classes, or in your high school, or did you go to different classrooms for each class, or was it?
Oh yeah, I went to different classrooms for class, but boy, that didn't start until like kids were in 6th grade, I think, and so I never saw. He never was changing classes, you know, while I was in high school. If you see kind of how that went, or you know.
So there was there no sibling rivalry?
No, too big a gap. And if there ever might have come into my mind, oh, he's too cute and I'm not cute, or something like that, some adult would have recognized that and called me aside and figured out a smart way of working through that, maybe by telling me something, or maybe just by changing something in the way we did things. So no, that was he was still the family treasure, and I was part of the family that treasured him. You know, it's like I was. But see, because I did so well in school, because I felt so successful. I felt successful in everything. I felt successful in school. I felt successful working with my grandfather, you know, and you know, I have nothing to feel jealous of with this other little being.
What was his relationship like with your mother?
His relationship with my mother? Well, he kept her running. I mean, she literally had him on a leash, you know, when he was young. And it seems like he had a name for her. Slee. That was his name for her. Because Dad called her Sally. Sally, where's my ex? Sally, where's my dad? Slee. And he would stand somewhere and expect Slee to come to him. It was like, well, if I want her, I'll call her. That's it, you know. I'm important. He didn't have to think of himself as important. It's like that's the way life was. You say, Slee, and whether you missed your pants or whether, you spilled something or whatever it was, you got Slee. God, that is to me the funniest thing. I mean, he was like the pet that we didn't have to pay for and to buy, you know. We just got this pet. Wow. Wow. Well, you know, I think it's quite amazing. It's quite easy to see how he would thrive in all of that. Everybody thought he was adorable. He got a lot of attention, you know. He got everything that he needed. But, you know, there are lots of families in which the older child would have been jealous, felt rejected, experienced being left out, you know, and it's not the way it was in our family. Partly because my grandmother and grandfather were also there. They were also adults, you know, and they both, you know, cherished me, and I had a relationship with them. I mean, my grandfather, being my grandfather's helper with the milking, man, I am it, you know. Grandpa needs me. And of course, he loved me, and we worked well together, so I was important. I never lost my importance. That's what it was. I never lost my importance. And I knew it. So I think this is the most extraordinary example of how a family should operate together. I think it is you know, phenomenal, actually. I don't see what anybody did wrong here.
So what was his relationship like with your dad?
What was
Bob's relationship
with his dad?
Yeah.
I don't think I can answer that really well because my dad was always tired. I can tell you that. So he was remote. My dad had rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, so he, at the point where that was happening and getting control over him, I guess, you know, he was no longer the participant in the family in the way that he had been earlier. So I think that made all of us more sober, and we didn't anticipate as much coming our way. I don't know how to, what's that? You know, patient, for one thing. And
in terms of parenting from your dad?
No. I think that it was so shocking to have a man in pain as your dad, that we were all, in a way, through our own will, chastised into kind of humane ways of dealing with each other. I think it was almost like he was a lesson to us, you know. I don't know how it could be a lesson. That's not the right word, but anyway, I don't know what I'm answering.
When was his arthritis diagnosed, or when did it start to become a problem for him? When you were young, or when you got older?
Oh, he was way too young. He was way too young. I'm trying to remember exactly the circumstances. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. I just had a picture of a horrible part of it that came to mind. That's what I was responding to.
Describe that.
Oh. Okay, local doctors, of course, first of all, rheumatoid arthritis is most notable for its pain, okay? There's arthritis that makes you slow to walk, you know, or you can't really lift this arm this high, but rheumatoid arthritis is like unending torture, okay? And that part of it just changed everything for everybody, you know. That's what was going on with Dad, and then there was a situation. I mean, and everybody, of course, had tried to figure out. Oh, there's got to be, you know, there got to be something out there that helps with this disease. You know, some. Not a panacea necessarily, but at least some kind of treatment or protocol or something. And so I remember they thought that they would get down to Syracuse, the big city, and that they, you know, there were people down there that had all sorts of talents that we didn't have in Watertown, and so. To get him physically down to Syracuse to see, the only way, he was in such excruciating pain, of course, now everything was desperate. He was in such excruciating pain that they decided the only way they could do this, and with any comfort for him. He was not going to be able to sit up. He wasn't going to be standing up. He had to be lying down. And so what they did was somebody had, you know, they were farmers or, you know, working people, and somebody had a really big long truck. I mean, you know, the length of the truck bed, you know, in the back of the truck would be like from that end of the sofa over to here, that long. And so the obvious thing, I mean, this man can't sit without pain, and what you really want is for him to be able to lie absolutely still. And so what they did was get enough padding on the back, under him, on the back of the truck, you know, to just have him lay there in a truck bed on the way down to Syracuse. And
from Adams Center,
yeah,
all the way down to
from the farm. And the part that makes me cry is that there is not a happy ending. It didn't work. I mean,
so he went there to the University Medical Center.
To something where they had said, oh yes, you know, rheumatoid arthritis, we're familiar with it. I think we can work with this. He got gold shots. That was the new thing, literal gold. They had tried so many things with rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, you know, it wasn't a new disease with him, you know. And so they were, this particular thing was after they had been trying gold shots, and they thought they were, you know, kind of getting advantage over the disease. And so, you know, 6 friends. I mean, it's like carrying a coffin or something, you know. It's heavy. And they got him onto the back of the truck, and they got him down to Syracuse and tried the gold shots, and they didn't do anything for him. I mean, maybe it worked for some people. I'm sure it must have worked for some people, or they wouldn't have kept trying it.
He came back essentially the same way.
Yep. Only totally discouraged. I mean, can you imagine if you hear, oh, this is this new treatment? I mean, you know what happens to you. I mean, you can't help but hope when you hear that. unless you've already had terrible lets down in the past, and he hadn't really tried anything. So my father, oh God, I can't even remember whether we talked about this, but my father, even after he was so crippled, and he wanted to work. Now, when I say crippled, I mean the pain was crippling, okay? His body, he could make it do the right thing. So he got another job. He couldn't work on the farm. Did I tell you about his getting the job at Sears store in whatever our city is, Watertown? And so he was no longer driving, but there was a woman in Adams Center that worked at the Sears store.
So the physical labor of the farm was too much.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
he got a job in Watertown.
Yeah.
At the Sears.
Yeah.
Sales type position.
Yeah. Now, you have to understand, my dad, in any situation, loved talking with people. He was not going to talk with people to boast about himself or to tell funny stories and make people laugh. He loved people. So, here's a people person and a people person job. So he goes to Sears, and the woman in Adams Center that works there, gives him rides to and from work. And as it turned out, he loved the work. He was good at it. And the worst part, he outsold his boss. And the reason was, he didn't sell. He listened. That was the difference. He didn't come in with a sales pitch. He came in and said, well, what are you looking for? First question, what are you looking for? And then, okay, do you see something here that you like? And then, okay, well, how about this over here then? It's like, it's all about you. It's all about you. It's not about me. Nothing's about me. And I just, everybody knows that's how sales should be, right? But I don't know, the word has to be proud. All I can tell you is I'm so proud that I had a father who, in severe pain, would get into a car with a woman who was driving to Watertown, had his job, and then was that kind of a salesperson. It's like a hero. It's like a hero. So yeah, that's there's not a part of my father's life that doesn't make me feel proud. Everything. I mean, my father could be the life of a party, and that was because he could tell a quick, short joke and make people laugh, but he didn't try to dominate everything. Like he'd just sink back, or he'd just offer somebody a drink and stand and talk with them. I mean, I'm sorry, because I know that I have just described a what's not to love person, because that's the way I feel about him. That's the way I saw him. That's the way other people felt about him, saw him. There was not a person in our community who knew him at all that didn't respect him highly, and a lot of them couldn't wait to hear his next joke.
Tell me about how long he worked at Sears.
I guess I'd like to think about how many winters he had to get from our farm, into town to work for Sears. And I don't think it was more than 3. I think, what was the precipitating factor that caused him to kill himself? Did I already tell you? Because I can't remember now. I think it was that my mother was growing older. And the last thing in hell my father could tolerate would be her, just having to devote her life to him as an invalid. It's like, nope, that's not going to happen. There's not going to be any me in that situation. Nope, my wife is not going to have that husband. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
You mentioned he killed himself. Tell me about how he killed himself.
Okay, let me just he and my mother were going to go out to breakfast. He had suggested, this was his plan, he had suggested this because they love to do that. They love to go out and eat breakfast. Not a lot of things you can go out and spend very little money and feel taken care of and have something that you didn't have at home. Okay, so that was the plan. That was the plan, going out to breakfast. And so you get up in the morning, you're going to go out to breakfast. Like a lot of other people, getting up in the morning and going somewhere, seeing people, being out, they took showers. All right, you gotta take a shower. Get ready. And if you're going out to breakfast, you're going to be kind of joyful about it. You're going to dress up. And so that's how he did it, in a way that my mother would never guess that it wasn't going out to breakfast. That it was, going to be something that she didn't know about and was going to be a shock forever, for the rest of her life, yeah. And that's how he did it. And it was perfect. Obviously, he was in such pain that if you asked her, would it be okay with you if at this stage of John's pain he died? She would have to overcome her horror of that and say, yeah, it would be okay.
So the morning of, they're getting ready, they're getting dressed to go to breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then what?
So, Dad takes his shower first. He gets out of the shower, he gets dressed, and then Mom, gets undressed, goes into the shower, and here's the shotgun go off, and I can't remember now. What did she say she thought? Oh, I know. She thought that on our oil stove, we had a little heater, an oil stove heater, she'd always been afraid that somehow that oil would explode in that. And she thought that was what she heard. But it was over. Anyway, whatever she heard, it was over, out of her control. And she had there was none of these soppy, sooky, ooky, gooky last conversations that would live with her forever. Yep. No, there was nothing like that. Nothing to live with except this memory, you know? Just all of the memories, and 90% of which were great ones that were beyond, a lot of them were beyond what she ever could have wished for her life, you know? Yeah, there's not one thing that I think was wrong with Dad's plan. I think it was the right plan. He had to take his life. He was not going to be like a stone around her neck. He was not going to be a totally different person toward her, you know, in relationship to her than he'd been all his life as the beloved husband. And that was intolerable. So he wouldn't have wanted it. Although to her, you know, I can't live without him, you know. This is my person. It's my only person. It was. There was never another one. But anyway, that's my family. That's my family tragedy. I think tragedy is when there is something this special man, this extraordinary person, this extraordinary relationship. And it gets taken down just by life, by chance, by, you know, nobody precipitated that it happened. Wow.
So your dad was in control to the end.
Yeah. And I think it was perfect. I would not change that. I agree with that totally. Yeah. My mother went on to be a happy person because she decided she was going to be a happy person. She decided she was going to say yes to everybody who said, even when it had before been two couples, and now it was a couple and her, she always said yes. You know, and I think that's bravery. I mean, I think he was brave enough to kill himself, but she was brave enough to go on with her life and not hide from life, you know. Wow. I can't believe, I can't believe you asked about all of this. This is...
Well, let's take a break.